Hi, I'm Chuck Simikian,
And I'm John Tallheimer. Welcome to the HR Stories Podcast,
where there's a lesson in every story.
It's the Q&A edition of the HR Stories Podcast with Chuck Simikian, Director Extraordinaire, and me, I, John Tallheimer, the not grammatarian. Welcome to the HR Stories Podcast. How are you guys doing? What's going on, Mr. Chuck Simikian down there in the Keys?
Florida Keys. It's hot. It's sunset coming up right now. And so, look, it's every day's an adventure in HR. And we've got a couple of great Q&A questions. John's been teaching class the last week or two, and he has a lot of questions. We got a lot of questions on our Facebook page, the HR Team of One. If you're not part of that, you need to be part of it. Several thousand people are on that posing questions.
3,700 plus.
Yeah. So sign up, join the conversation, ask questions, and we actually allow people to ask anonymous questions just because we know how sensitive HR can be. John, you have a couple of good questions, but you and I talked a little before this, and we were talking about the first question you're gonna throw out there, and I was like, I don't know, it seems so much, and I've been working all day. Do I really got to think about it? And then we just started talking about it, and I'm like, it went in a whole different direction, and hopefully we can recapture that. But why don't you throw it out there?
All right, I'll throw the question out. And I love that you're like, yeah, he sends me these questions, and I'm just too busy, and I don't come up with answers. And so now I have to do it right before we start. This is HR, though. HR in the real world, right? We're busy. All right, here's the first question. Would you say that HR is constantly changing because of cultural shifts or technology? What else do you think is influencing the HR role within organizations? Now, this came, I will just kind of give everyone, this came from one of my workshops. I was doing, I think it was the essential laws of HR. I think that's what I was doing for one of our clients. And yeah, and so this popped up. And so I had to answer it on the fly. So I want to hear your answers.
I know. You said this. I'm like, I don't know. Then I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, a lot of stuff. HR is changing. A lot of stuff in HR is not changing. There's a lot of things on the outside that are influencing HR. But yes, cultural shifts are definitely influencing HR because cultural shifts a lot of times lead to different laws and legalities and appropriate and inappropriate things. Like I said in one of our episodes, there are things we can and really shouldn't say that are not appropriate. Hey, he took the short bus to work, or things like geez, I'm sorry, I melted down. I had a PTSD moment. Talking about and so there's cultural shifts now that lead to legal things where EEOC says, hey, making fun of someone's mental health or making someone fun of their disability is not only not cool,
Right.
it's against the law.
Yeah.
So we are influenced by that. Technology, yeah. I mean, look, I've been living with technology in HR for years, and I haven't seen it really help. AI actually has helped a lot, but sometimes technology makes things worse because I'm still sitting at a computer probably 7 hours a day out of 8 to 10 hours when technology in HR was supposed to help us get away from the computer and be out with the people. And it really hasn't. But let me tell you what hasn't changed in HR, John. And I got to tell you this story. I'm at work the other day, and there's a senior executive meeting. We're all in there. We're talking about budgets and forecasts and some high level stuff. And the general manager looks around and he's like, where's the candy? Chuck, you didn't bring any candy, no treats. And because in HR department, we keep some candy, but I have a whole bunch of treats in the back. And sometimes you have employees come in and so I'm like, hey, you want something to eat? You want some, whatever. So I'm like, all right, I'll go get I'll go get some candy from the HR office. So I get up to go get the candy, and someone says, "Hey, stop by the kitchen and pick up some fresh cookies too." And I'm thinking, okay, so let's talk about how HR hasn't changed. So I come back, and they're all looking at me and said, "I just want to let everyone know, 30 years experience, a college degree, 2 senior certifications, and HR is, and I'm still going to get the
And
candy
a
and the
best-selling book
cookies."
on top of that.
And a best-selling book, by the way, on how to do HR, and an award-winning podcast. And what am I doing?
Getting the cookies.
Get the cookies. Hey, Chuck, HR's here. Hey, go get the cookies and the candy. You had a great idea for a shirt. It's like HR's here. I'll get the candy, or whatever, or something like that.
HR,
I
I'll
mean,
bring the cookies.
I'll be HR. I'm in HR. I'll bring the
Yeah. Oh
cookies.
my goodness.
So it's like, what the
Yeah.
heck? So, anyways, I don't know if that answers the question, but I think we did up front a little
Yeah,
bit.
and I do think employment laws are always shifting, but I think to your point, they're always shifting. Technology is always changing. Culture is always changing, and it's our job and our role to adapt the policies and procedures and the culture of our organization to meet the moment. And I
Yeah.
think that's the important part. And so I do think right now we're seeing some laws and changes, and it's kind of putting us all like, wow, we got this one big beautiful bill act, right? And what do we need to do, and how do we need to do that? And there's a lot of things going on, but I do think when you look at it from our point of view, been doing it for a long while, we're like, yeah, all right, we got some more changes coming. We're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we come to adapt to it, and then we have to go get the
Yeah.
cookies, right?
Got to go
At
get the
least
cookies.
you're not
So,
making the cookies, right? All right, are you ready for question number 2?
question number
And this
2.
one, I think it's going to be easy. I think this one will be quick and easy, Chuck. But I just want to get it because I think other people may have this question. If your business is based in one location, but you have one or more employees who work out of state, are you, as an employer, responsible for following both state regulations? And if so, what if there is a conflict?
Yeah. So I'll kick this off, and then I'm going to throw it to you because I know you're teaching this pretty much every
Yeah.
week. So this has really changed in the last 5 or 6 years since COVID,
Yeah.
right? I mean, at first, people kind of thought they knew what to do because it wasn't happening that much. Then at COVID came, then people started working from home. People started moving to Florida because they worked in New York and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Then it got really confusing. Then people thought they figured it out. Then things changed again. And I think the general overall thing was wherever you are living, that is the law that you follow. That's what I
Wherever
had
you're
always thought. That's
working.
wherever you're
Yeah.
working. Okay. So if I live in Florida, no, if my, yeah, wherever you're working. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, wherever you're working. Yeah, not living, wherever you're
Yeah.
working, right? So if your company's in California, but you live in Florida, Florida is your laws, right? Um, that is why I know, and I have worked for clients and companies that will absolutely refuse remote wise to hire people in California, New York, Massachusetts, Michigan,
Colorado.
pretty much Oregon, New England, any of the New England states, Pennsylvania. I have seen
Yeah.
that. But I've also seen, and I'm going to turn over to you in a minute, where in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from, the city of Pittsburgh has a law that even if you don't live in the city of Pittsburgh, there is a tax on your paycheck for the privilege of coming into the city and working in the
Yeah.
city. And so I found that to be interesting. I was shocked when I
Yeah,
heard that. And that was
Philadelphia
over
has
20
that
years
too,
ago.
so maybe a Pennsylvania
Okay.
thing. And Pennsylvania has all their crazy. Every township has their own income tax.
1% a
Or
lot of
yeah, or
times.
0.01%, or it's crazy,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, it's where the employee is working. Again, if it's one day, probably okay. However, you go to New York City for a day, there's taxes involved, right? And so when we send people to New York to do remote work, we were always like, okay, well, here's what we need to know when you're working there because there's going to be different taxes and that kind of stuff. California may have something like that as well, but if we have a remote worker and they're, or not even a remote worker, but if we have somebody that's working in a different state, we got to follow the state laws for that employee. And we have to be aware of taxes and all of that stuff that goes with that. Now, some states will have reciprocal things like, oh, it's fine as long as you're in this state, that's fine, we know, and da da da. So you want to check that out. You want to make sure you do that. And the question always comes up is like, well, how do we do that in the employee handbook? And there's a couple ways that we recommend, right? So the one way is you can just have an addendum in the back of the book. If you're in Pennsylvania, here's what you need to follow, and this is how it changes. If you're in California, here's what you need to do. I get a little wary about that, and here's why. Because let's say I have people working in Pennsylvania, right? And so they get overtime after 40 hours in a work week. If I'm in California, people get overtime after 8 hours in a day, right? And so if I'm putting both of those things in there, that employee in Pennsylvania might be like, well, that's not fair. And then you have to explain, well, that's the law and that's the way. If you want to move out to California, that's fine, blah, 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 right? And so sometimes just having separate employee handbooks can kind of notch that down, but that's more work, right? That's more work and more creating, and you got to decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Good. I think we covered
Yeah,
that.
that was an easy one. Number 3, does the state create laws that also dictate how long it should take for your last check? Or is that a federal thing?
Oh boy, I lived with this on a couple different places. So it is a federal thing, but it is also could be a state thing. And most states right now will say you need to give the final paycheck on the last regular pay period that you would have normally paid that person. That's the way it is in Florida. I work for a company that has hotels in California and in Washington, D.C., and a few other things. And sometimes my senior VP or someone may say something, oh my gosh, you got to get their paycheck out right away. You know, they just terminated. You got to get it out to them tomorrow. How are you going to get it? I'm like, relax. Hey, we're in Florida.
Yeah.
But some states do
And so
require that.
I don't think, I'm going to contradict you, I don't think the federal government cares. But the states do. And it is different by state. And so what's one of the deduction laws by the states are different. It's one of the things I teach in my classes. And it is fascinating, like which state is there. I think, and again, it may be different if you terminate, like if the company takes action, it may be different than if the employee takes action. And I'm thinking of California, and I'm not 100% on this, so don't quote me on this, but I think in California you have 72 hours. If the company terminates them, and then you have till the next payday if they quit, right? And so, but some states are very like, you terminate them, you need to give them the paycheck right then. And so you got to know what your state law is and pay attention to it. And then other states are like Florida, like you pay them just at the next paycheck, that's fine. Payday. And so you just got to know, you got to know your laws. Where I get a lot of my information, a little plug here for our friend Lisa Smith and the HR Help Desk.
Lisa Smith and the HR Help Desk.
So she has some great state law information in her help desk. It's a membership platform you can join. And what I love about it is you can ask Lisa and her senior certified professionals questions and get answers right away. And so it's a great tool. If you want to know more about it, just email us and we can give you some information about it because it is a great tool and I use it pretty much in my everyday. I know Chuck uses it too in his work. So, all right, let's do a quick number 4. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. We're already on question 4. Shoot.
Yeah. All right. So this is a little more complicated. It's going to take me a second, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. Not necessarily answering the question, but your thoughts overall. Okay. So I need help on a payroll issue. In North Carolina, my company bought a small book of business, which has a manager and 3 employees. I was advised today that the way he pays his technicians Monday and Friday, any hours worked between 8 and 5, he pays them $35 an hour. Any time outside of those hours, the technicians are paid $60 per hour. Even if they did not work between the 8 and 5 time. We have 100, so the bigger company, we have 150 employees. This is not the practice we do. I get this would be similar to shift differential. However, there are 8 other similar departments, and only this one of 3 would be implementing this. 1, is that legal? And 2, what do you think?
Okay, so this is someone that it's the same job.
Yeah.
And sometimes these folks are paid $35 an hour. Sometimes they're paid $60
Yeah,
an
and
hour,
so
correct?
the way I envision this, and I don't know if this is true or not, but when I read it, this is what I thought. Like they were HVAC technicians or plumbers. And so when they would go to the house, it would be $35 during normal work hours. But when they had to do something in the evening where they were called, they would pay them $65 an hour.
Yeah. So, you know, you put it through the different screens of, you know, are you being fair? Are you being consistent? Are you treating one department differently because of their race or their religion? Is there a disadvantage? Are they being paid less for some reason? Government always cares about that if
Right.
it's, you know, being paid less. But I would say on the surface, I don't see a problem with it. As long as you're fair and consistent, you're not penalizing anyone, I think,
Yeah, so
to me, it sounds fine.
I think you could do it as a singular company, right? And so as a singular company, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. You're not damaging anybody. You're not hurting them. If they get overtime, 35 times 1.5 their regular rate is, I don't know, 35 times 1, 35 times half, 17.
Well, they would do some sort of blended
Right,
rate
yeah.
For
Yeah,
overtime.
right. And so,
Right?
so again, right, that would be fine, right? And so all that would be fine, kind of figuring all that out. I do think there's a concern because it's not being done in the other departments of the main company, right? And so now I mean, again, I don't think it's a legal thing. I think it's a cultural thing. And if you're going to be treating like, oh, they get $65 when they work outside, why don't we get that? We're only getting our $35. That's not fair. And so you're going to have to figure that out. Now, the problem is these individuals are used to doing that, right? That's what they're used to, blah, 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 blah. And now you're going to take that. If you take that away, then are they going to have hurt feelings? Are they going to be like, I don't want to work here anymore? Right? And so.
Yeah, so you could have some employee relations
issues
and things like that.
Yeah, and so if I was the HR person there, if I was the owner of the business, I'd be like, look, we're taking you over. This is what we're going to do. You're going to be paid the exact same rate as everyone else here. And when people work outside of that normal 8 to 5 hours, this is what they're going to get. And that's what you're going to get. And unfortunately, you may lose individuals that are powerful. But if I have somebody like, well, I don't want to do that, I'd be like, all right, well, let me look at your regular rate and let me see, maybe I will boost that up. So instead of paying $35 an hour, maybe I'll pay them $40, knowing that if they do work out of time, that's going to kind of figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah. Some kind of plan in there.
All right, great. Well, folks, you've heard 4 great Q&A stories from the team at HR Stories Podcast. Don't forget to check out our book, The Ultimate Guide to HR Checklist Edition, full of 80-plus checklists. It was a big hit at the National SHRM Conference this past summer. Big hit, sold out, still available on Amazon.com, and it will be for sale at some upcoming state conferences, specifically HR Florida. John, anything to send us away with, or are we good to go?
No, I think that's great. And I would just say to everyone, just kind of pay attention, make sure you're checking in with us. There's a lot of things happening out there, and we're going to try to cover them over the next couple months, but definitely check in with us. And if you do have any questions, please email us. We're always answering people's questions. I have meetings with people that are just reaching out. Hey, how would you answer that? And we love doing that. So send us your emails.
All right. Thanks, folks.